Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Bavarian and this is Crusader Kings III's number 49 when it comes to the dev diaries. Now we had a long break from dev diaries. We got the patch in and the update in November. That was quite the big one, 1.2 of course, and then starting I believe in mid-December or something like that, they took a break. And I mean, fair enough, I understand. They came back last week and I didn't cover last week's because, well, essentially it was interesting, don't get me wrong here. We were told that essentially Henrik Fareus, I'm not sure whether that is how you pronounce the last name, could be Farhus, or something entirely different. He moved on, he became a creative director now for Paradox, meaning that he oversees multiple games including CK3, and the actual game director is now Alexander Altner, who I have heard is a splendid guy, but you know, I was like, I can't make a video about that because what I'm going to tell you, I have no funny anecdotes. I don't know about the quality of Alexander Altner. I can only hope, I can cross my fingers, much like all of you can, that this game will be worked out, or will rather, you know, get the treatment that of course it deserves, and kind of continue onwards with a pretty good streak. Let's be real, release was quite good. The systems that they implemented and the basic functions were very fundamentally excellent. But at the same time, and I think all of you feel that, I feel that at the very least, I'm hungry. I want to see maybe a roadmap. I want to see more updates. I want to see what is coming, what they're working on. I want to see what's going on, especially of course because we have a flavor pack coming up, we have an expansion pack coming up, and we have another flavor pack coming up at some point. The exact date I don't know, but they were included in the season pass, so I'm waiting for those and I'm very hopeful for those. Now in today's Dev Diary, a cold embrace, we will be talking about upcoming features. Let me put you into the position of knowing the timeline. This is today, this is when we are receiving this dev diary. Then the next 2 weeks we'll have dev diaries as well, at least as far as we know, that will all be about, as was this one, the actual free patch, the free upgrade that will come with 1.3, not about the upcoming flavor pack, aka the DLC. That one, at least that is what they tease right here. For the next few weeks and the coming dev diaries, we'll be talking about what we have in store for the next major update, 1.3, but patience is a virtue. Knowing better, I'll leave this right here, and what he left right here is of course Paradox Insider returns on March 13. If you don't know what Paradox Insider is part of an overall game show, and there you can see, yeah, it is presented by the Media Indie Exchange. Game Dev Direct is what the event as a whole is called, and starting at 8 p.m. CET, that is my time, so Central European time, Paradox will be there with Paradox Insider. It sounds most certainly like they will announce the DLC right there, the DLC content, what it is all about, probably with a nice little trailer, maybe some gameplay even. I would be very excited for the gameplay. And I don't know when we can then actually look towards the DLC, but I would wager maybe like 2-3 weeks out. I just want to state, by the way, I have no idea. I'm making that up as well. I just want more info. I just want to see more things of what is going on. But that is essentially the timeline that we are standing in front of. Now, before we jump into this dev diary, what do I give it when it comes to a grade? Or rather, let's not do a grade, let's do a sideways thumb. I think this is a fine dev diary. I think they have good content. I think they are telling us about a bunch of interesting stuff that is moddable, that will certainly help the mods that already exist. But again, I really want to see a roadmap. I actually held a vote right on the channel, and 10,000 of you voted, and you were incredibly split about what sort of future content you want, so you can only be right and wrong at the same time either way, because everybody wanted something else. But yeah, I think we all wanted a bit of a roadmap right here. Now let's get actually into the juice. What is going on here when it comes to Crusader Kings III 1.3? What are we talking about? We're talking about winter today. Winter is coming. As winter approaches, the map will gradually get covered in snow, clearly showing the extent of the freezing cold. The system itself is fairly flexible and allows for a great degree of control, as we can set which provinces should experience winter and which shouldn't. Winter won't be limited to just the northernmost parts of the map, so expect snow to appear in places such as the Persian mountains or on the heights of the Tibetan plateau. So this is the Himalaya. You can see right here, this one is not as filled with snow as is, for example, this one, or as are the mountains. And then of course down here, when it comes to India itself, we can see there is no snow whatsoever except in the actual border regions. I'm curious whether this is actually like mild snow, mild winter, or whether this is just a bit of a graphical overlap right there. But either way, it looks beautiful. Of course, we had winter in CK2. Of course, winter had a teeny tiny effect. There may have been more to it, I'll be honest with you. I did not actually look further into that, but I do remember that in CK2, winter pushes down your supply, meaning that your armies take attrition quicker. And of course, in CK2, we did not have any supply on your armies. They would just immediately lose min. They would immediately die. And that honestly made just winter a bit of an annoyance, and I think they learned out of that, because in CK2 again, you never even saw the map. It wasn't really visually on your mind. At most, you would see it in the supply map that supply was down in certain regions of the map. But of course, you'd still play it in that mode, you know, where the entire country, the entire county was colored in with your color. This is no longer the case, quite obviously. You can now directly see where you're going, making this a bit of a very well implemented mechanic when it comes to how easy can the player tell what is going on, because you will immediately know, hey, will I fight this fella in the winter or not? The amount of snow increases with higher levels. Mild winters should generally be fairly easy to spot, which with patches of green still clearly visible. In contrast, harsh winters mostly cover an entire province with snow. Certain areas might even have clouds with steady snowfall appearing for the extra level of detail. So that is quite nice. Of course, the more visually pleasing it is, it does remind me a bit of Imperator Rome, which I've been playing a lot of recently, as you may know. But Imperator Rome has the strait between Sicily and southern Italy, and right there you have these beautiful, absolutely gorgeous storms that will destroy your ships, but look absolutely gorgeous. So I think this is a bit of the same notion here. Depending on the severity of winter, your armies will start to lose supply over time. Harsh winter means you lose more supply each month, making it a risky business to go above the supply limit for an extended period during the winter season. Harsh winters will also have armies suffer more fatal casualties during battle. This is particularly interesting to me. We had this effect already in the swamplands and the marshlands, where if you won, you could hunt down your enemies significantly easier compared to anywhere else, because of course they would get stuck, they would, you know, not be able to scatter as fast, and I assume that winter is at the very least similar. Certainly a very interesting addition when it comes to the dynamic of warfare in CK3. Winter will also have an effect on your men-at-arms. That one is very nice. Heavy cavalry in particular will suffer from hefty penalties. I would advise against the use of heavy cavalry if you know you'll be fighting battles in mountainous terrain during the winter season. On the other hand, one such unit that is impacted positively by winter is the Tibetan culture unit Mountaineers. Accustomed to the cold and the snow in the mountains, they can utilize it to their advantage in the form of damage bonuses whenever they participate in battles when winter is present. You can see it right here, you get the winter effects. This is the harsh winter, I assume, or maybe this is the harsh winter, I actually don't know, but it seems like they get nothing for a mild winter, but the normal winter and the harsh winter do give an impact. Now, it's quite nice, of course, it is listed the same way as the terrain effects. I am incredibly happy to see what modders make from this, you know, be it God Hazard, be it The Way of Kings, be it, of course, Game of Thrones. I mean, that is just a given, be it Elder Kings, because of course you could have magic be impacted by that. Not to say that any of these universes have magic be impacted by cold weather, but I think it is quite the interesting concept. And then again, now that I think about it, you should totally enhance, and you should totally enhance the ability of, for example, White Walkers, right, to actually utilize raising whites, for example, making it easier if they go down there. Now, the interesting thing about this, what I immediately thought when I saw this is, can I take these effects, right, and apply them without the winter system? As in, the winter system itself, you know, is going on, of course, it's going on in the background. But can I, for example, have something that goes and comes, you know, as it pleases? Can I have that and at the same time make it so that, you know, it's not winter? For example, what I mean is that in The Way of Kings, there is something that I believe in, and maybe very well be wrong. There is something called the Everstorm, and the Everstorm makes it so it, you know, rolls by, and when it does, it can enhance your the gems that you then have filled with magic after, you know, lightning hit them from the Everstorm. That sort of stuff, could we simulate that? Could we emulate that with the winter effect? The answer to that, sadly, at the moment seems to be no. We're going to see that in the dev answers below once we get to that, but essentially it apparently boils down to the fact that you just have winter coming in. The Everstorm goes from east to west, you know, essentially just moves like this, or maybe like this on camera, I'm not actually sure. But either way, it might not be possible yet. I know you can definitely have a bit of a long-term effect. For example, God Hazard has the anti-magi field in the Marcher territory, where magic is incredibly useless, which is a similar effect to the terrain effect, or rather it is a literal terrain effect. I am very curious to what actually can be done, how moddable and how flexible in modding the winter system is. I'm cautiously optimistic, but we shall see whether you can actually mod that into something that, you know, isn't necessarily winter, but just in general, of course. Having winter and having winter at your, disposal as a modder is always good. The system for setting winter bonuses, or penalties, if you will, on men-at-arms works just like terrain bonuses, of course. Yeah, we've seen that right here. You can definitely mod that in. My question is just, can you mod something in with the same mechanics as winter, but it's not winter? So, for example, it comes twice a year. It comes every 5 years, that sort of stuff, right? That is something that I would be indeed interested in. Holdings. Audio gets reflected with real-time updates to holdings. When winter spreads over your lands, or any lands for that matter, folks now go inside their homes. Birds have migrated to more southern regions, and the animals are now in their stables or inside the hearths. Cozy. Let's listen to it. See it right here as well. Comes a bit more quiet, I think. Essentially, some of the hammering stops. I keep talking over it, my apologies. There you go. Yeah, it's significantly quieter than anything that we hear in the normal game right now. Awesome, but what does it actually do? And we can see that right here. There you go. What he changes up here, or what the user changes up here, is the season, and it alters how loud the audio tracks are. Meaning, in winter, of course, it is quieter, and in summer, spring, and autumn, it is a bit louder. I don't think, yeah, there's no sound example right there. We also have snowstorms appearing for both mild and harsh winters. If you hear the sounds, beware, your troops will most likely suffer some penalties in these areas. See, it sounds like the snowstorms that appear aren't just visual, and when they appear, they will give you a harsher penalty than mild and harsh winters already do, but honestly, I'm not sure, because of course, when you see a snowstorm, it's already a harsh winter, meaning you already get penalties. If the snowstorms in particular actually impact how it goes, and, you know, make, for example, a harsh winter even harsher, I would be a big fan. I can tell you one thing, 100%, the snowstorm looks beautiful. It's a bit, it looks like a bit of a low frame rate here, like it stutters a bit. Yeah, it stutters a bit, but look at these, it just looks good. It looks really, really good. I'm a huge fan of this sort of, you know, enhancement when it comes to the visual side of it, so whether it actually has a separate impact or it is purely visual, honestly, it's gonna be fine. It just looks really cool to have your people fight in a snowstorm. The snowstorms are spawned on the map with the particle system, which allows us to be able to spatialize the sound effects, so position them in a 3D location. As the mild snowstorm morphs into the harsh storm, so do the sound effects. And right here we can see how that happens, how it morphs and how it moves. We have the top lines that are different layers of wind. See right here, they are soloing those lines. This is quite the harsh wind. Then down here, it gets scattered and it goes in and out. You know, it goes from medium to harsh and so on and so forth. Let's just listen to that for a moment here. There it goes. It sounds like ash storms in Morrowind, right? Is that just me? It sounds like ash storms. And there you go. Now it gets altered, it goes quieter, it goes louder. I think this is excellent sound engineering. I'm a huge fan. Oh yeah, right, they're changing the camera, so you're moving away, you're moving in there. Great stuff. I'm a big fan of everything, honestly, when it comes to the visuals and the sounds in CK3. There's some amazing work in there, of course, the tracks. I wish we had more tracks, just for the record, but the tracks are also fundamentally great. Yeah. The question for me, and this is a bit of an uncertainty, of course, that doesn't need to be revealed in a dev diary, I understand why, but the question to me really boils down to two things. The first one is, how moddable is the basic nature of the winter effects occurring? Can I limit it, for example, like, you know, obviously you have a preference during winter, whether it's going to be a harsh, a mild, or medium winter, but can I also make it so that it only occurs every 5 years, that it only checks every 5 years, you know, that I can have longer winters and longer summers? That is a question that we don't know yet. We shall see how that goes. Of course, Paradox is renowned, and Crusader Kings III in particular is renowned to be as moddable as possible. We will see what it actually amounts to. Obligatory map update. Now, this one is interesting. Ireland, of course, was a bit shortchanged. I think a lot of people felt like that. They have made 12 provinces into 14. That's not the major change on this map. You can see that Connacht has been split into Mayo and Uy Main, probably not how you pronounce that. And then Thomond has been split into Ennis and Thomond. But more importantly, here you actually have more holdings in the different counties, making it so that building up Ireland can just yield much, much more, you know, in comparison to just having a 2-holding location. Now you might have a 3 or maybe even a 4-holding location. That's the bigger change, but they also added, again, 2 more provinces to Ireland. Then down here, we have something very similar with Italy. I looked over this, and I'm pretty sure that there is not a single new county in here, which isn't bad. We have a lot of counties here already, but essentially what they did is, and you can see right here, Veneto has one more holding in it. I think Padua might also have another holding in it. I am pretty certain. I want to say it was Modena. I actually looked at that in-game, but they generally simply added more holdings so that building up Italy is worthwhile, that you can, you know, go further into development, that you can build more cities, more castles, and that you can build more bishoprics, of course, making it so that just sitting here and playing tall, again, pays a bit out, you know, a bit more than it previously did. Italy, I think, was also shortchanged, not in amount of provinces, but in amount of building up ability. Now, we had the same thing going on here in southern Italy. I know for sure that Lecce has become larger. Cosenza has an additional, I believe this is an additional barony right here, and then in Salerno, the border of this barony was all the way up here. I think, is this Vesuvius? No, this is, oh my god. This is Vesuvius, right? You know what, don't ask me about geography in Italy, of course, I cannot give you good answers. But essentially, they did a very similar thing here. I do not believe there's a single new province, but I believe that there are many, many more holdings that, for example, you know, playing the Fox down here, Robert the Fox, will have a much greater impact if you choose to build Toul, because then you don't need to blow out to get more troops, to get more money, to get more development. You can simply build up and you can have a good time right there. I think it's a good choice, reworking the map, but it certainly strikes me as a very, very soft map rework. This isn't something akin to CK2 and EU4 where we saw these massive increases of, you know, territory. Of course, it has to be said, I think that we are in a situation where this map doesn't really need it as much as CK2 and EU4 needed it, but you know, yeah, it's a soft one. I think that's the right classification. Now that being said, let's move on to some stuff down here. I do believe, right, they had to fix the videos. It's not possible to have winter appear at 2 different times. Other than that, winter should be fairly moddable. You can set exactly which provinces have winter and how likely they are to get the different severities of winter by setting a bias value on them. There are a number of default values set in the fines that can be overridden by individual provinces as well. It seems like it always does a yearly check. It seems like you can't reduce it, you know, to, like, for example, check every other year or every 6 months, so that you have more winters, or that your winters are longer, or that, you know, you just don't have a winter for a long time, like, for example, in Game of Thrones. It is what it is. I think that is essentially how I have to phrase that. I wish it wasn't so. This is why the dev diary gets the sideways thumb. It's nice to get more info, it's nice to get more content, but at the same time, I really do wish that there was more freedom to what we can do with the winter system. Most of these significant effects take hold at the start of combat. So this is in regards to winter impacting your men-at-arms and to winter impacting everything going on, you know, with the battlefield itself. Now, I think this is a good choice, because this makes it so, of course, when you plan a fight, you don't plan for how many weeks you will be fighting. CK3, Order of the Combat, is going on over weeks and weeks and weeks, and I think in this situation it is significantly better to simply take the start of the battle. So for example, if it's a harsh winter and afterwards it just becomes a mild winter, the battle will be during the harsh winter. That is generally how it is treated. Of course, you know, the significant effects take hold at the start of combat. I think this is the right choice, makes it so that players know what to expect and how to interact with it, and there is less luck in it and much more just the player knowing, yeah, I'm going into this, I know, you know, we currently have mild winter, so my heavy cavalry isn't amazing, but I can still send them in. What do you think about this dev diary? What do you think about everything going on here, you know, when it comes to the update cycle, when it comes to Paradox Insider? And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, more importantly, what do you think Paradox Insider will tell us about? I'll be real with you. I think we're going to be seeing, obviously, the announcement of the flavor pack, and I think it's going to be roleplay oriented. We talked about trade, we talked about the Byzantines, we talked about republics, of course, we talked about nomads, about so many things, about the College of Cardinals, but I think it's going to be roleplay oriented, because that is something very significant that the game currently lacks. The game has great mechanics, but at some point you see all of the events, of course, and at that point, you know, I think a flavor pack would be really nice. Let me know what you think, and for the moment, I would like to thank all of the members of the channel. Thank you so much for, of course, supporting the channel. I will be back with some Imperator Rome tutorials. I might even do a proper playthrough of Imperator Rome. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm currently migrating from Gaul all the way over to Epirus, and then gonna take some boats and go to Cyprus. I think that's gonna be my final location there. Then I'm gonna build up a pirate republic. It's gonna be fun. I hope, at least for me. And I'm also going to be putting up some CK3 guides and general videos up. I'm looking forward to finally being back properly on the channel. I hope so are you. And I'll see you later, alligator.